Welcome back. We're in section 3.2. We are going to tackle the section called angles formed by parallel lines and transversals. I think this stuff is really fun. We're starting to apply some of our geometry, and we're going to incorporate some of our algebra we've learned. So if, of course, at any point in time you get a little confused, please mark it so we can talk about it in class tomorrow, okay? All right. Let's look at the very first postulate out of this particular section. Corresponding angles postulate is the name, and this is what it says. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of corresponding angles are congruent. So what that would mean is that angles 1 and 3 would be congruent, and their angle measures would be equal. Angles 2 and 4 would be congruent. Angles 5 and 7 would be congruent, as well as 6 and 8. Okay? And so that's pretty neat. But that's only true. Like in the last section, we identified where corresponding angles were located, but the lines weren't necessarily parallel. In this section, the lines are parallel. And when the lines are parallel and they're cut by transversal, then those corresponding angles are always going to be equal in measure. They're going to be congruent. Okay? So let's take a look at example 1. And they want us to find each angle measure. So we're supposed to find the measure of angle ABC. So here's A, B, C. Okay, so this particular angle right here, okay? This is what they're asking us to find, okay? So let me erase that because I think the original drawing's better. Okay, so they've identified our parallel lines. Look at the parallel indicators right here. You guys see that? So those lines are parallel. And here's your transversal. There's your transversal right there that's cutting across those two parallel lines. Now, we're trying to find x degrees, which is angle ABC. Look carefully, because we just learned a postulate that said, hey, corresponding angles are equal when you have parallel lines. Well, hey, we have parallel lines. So our corresponding angles should be equal to each other. So what corresponds with x degrees? What corresponds with it? There's only one angle up there that corresponds with it. And you're right. That would be 80 degrees. That's how much that angle is worth. Okay? Let's look at the measure of angle DEF. Okay? So angles D, E, and F. See that angle right there? This is what we're after. Okay, well, what corresponds with it is 2x minus 45. They're both above their respective lines and to the right of the transversal. That makes them corresponding. That also makes them equal, because when you have parallel lines cut by transversal, corresponding angles are equal. So we could do a little algebra here. We could go, hey, I don't know what the actual measure is, but I know that these two angles are equal to each other. And you could set the two angles equal to each other and solve for x. Now, solving for x is not going to give me the angle measure. I have to plug that back in to find and actually answer the question. So I'm going to go ahead, take away x from each side. Now I have x minus 45 is equal to 30. I'm going to add 45 to each side. And so it looks like x is 75. Okay, that's not the angle measure. The angle measure is x plus 30. That's the angle measure. So I've got to take my 75 and add 30 to that, and my angle measure is 105 degrees. That's what we're after. Okay? So I've actually left you guys to check it out. So I'm going to give a +1 for that. Apply the corresponding angles postulate to your bonus. And if you have any questions, bring those to class.